Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of She's in Focus, a podcast dedicated to inspiring and empowering female filmmakers and video creators from all walks of life and on every step of their creative journey. I'm your host, Kel Grant, an aspiring filmmaker based in New Jersey that's just kind of looking to turn my passion into something more and connect with other like-minded, passionate female artists. One of those being Jasmine Q. She's a filmmaker and photographer based in Austin, Texas. Creates social media ads and videos for brands and businesses. You can check her out at jasminequiñones.com or her Instagram at jasmine_Q. She also has a podcast, For Creativity's Sake, which largely inspired this podcast, I'll be honest. And, she's a creative director at Thrive on Life.
Oh, dang.
She's
going
a singer.
deep.
She's a skater. There's nothing she can't do, and she's so much cooler than I'll ever be. So I'm so thrilled to have you on, Jasmine. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's super cool to be on somebody else's podcast, but also be on yours, because we've been chatting so much through IG, and we've never actually had the chance to speak face to face. But even when I got on here, I was I feel like I already talked to her face to face.
I know. I feel like I know you. It's funny because how I met you, or how I found you rather, on social media, kind of perfectly summarizes the point of this podcast, right? I had asked Alex Gassaway, who's a female creator on YouTube, to point me in the direction of more female filmmakers, diverse filmmakers, and you were on that list. And so I started following you, and I don't think you noticed me at first, and then through you I actually found Thrive.
Okay, so that's how it happened.
Yeah, and then I started posting in Thrive, and then you were like, oh, this girl's legit. And then you messaged me, and it's so funny. And I was like, yeah, by the way, I've been stalking you for a while.
And I was like, oh, damn, I feel bad as hell now. No,
so funny.
it was pretty cool. Yeah, for some reason I thought that you had found me through Thrive first. I didn't know that it was the opposite way around. Which is really cool that she referred my name in that list of people, which is really cool because she's got a following on YouTube, and she's big on IG, and I thought that was super dope. So that's that made me feel good inside. So
yeah, definitely. That's women supporting other women for you. That's exactly what we love to see.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. So this podcast is about female filmmakers, and it's kind of an exclusive group. I felt like I was so nervous when I first pitched this idea, because I felt like all the male creators were gonna come for me or something.
Yeah, no, they were gonna be salty or something.
Yeah. Girls only. But it's been a boys club for a while, so I think we need something like this.
It has been, and it's so weird, and it doesn't make any sense to me, because I'm why is it that I am just for some reason so unable to come across or connect with as many women in the creative field as I do men? I don't get it, because I'm pretty sure we're just as, if not more creative than men. So I don't know. It's interesting to me that every time I do meet people that are in this industry, it's usually always a guy, and I don't really get it. I don't know where that how does that happen? I don't know.
And that's the thing. When I first went on this venture, I was there's gotta be other women who are just as passionate, if not more passionate, as I am about filmmaking and about making creative content. And sure enough, I was able to find a few people on social media, but I had to do so much research and work to get there. It wasn't laid out for me on a silver platter.
Right. Why? Yeah. It's always we have to search for them outwardly. Where are they? Can you reference the fact that you had to ask for a list? That's kind of crazy. I don't know, but I'm so happy that you're doing that, and that cause that's what my podcast was going to try to be. But I ran into the issue of I don't even know how to book that many female guests. I literally was I don't know how to find them. I don't know where to go to find them, because I have such a limited circle of friends who are female filmmakers. So I'm super, I respect you a lot for actually doing it and making it that, because I definitely like started my own podcast with the intention of doing that, and then I was like, well, shit, I have so many like I have so many guy friends who are in the creative industry. Like, I'd love to talk to them as well, but I was also like, damn, like I'm trying to talk to all the female creators. Like, where are
the
they,
ladies
you know?
at? Yeah,
That's what I was trying to do. But
exactly.
this is dope. I really think that this is amazing what you're doing.
Thank you. Me too. I'm really excited about it. And, you know, I can't go on YouTube without a male creator being suggested to me. So I'm like, we need to get more women on YouTube. Because that's the thing. Like, I love, you know, Becky Peckham. She's love Becky
she's
and
really
Chris.
cool.
Yeah, her, you know, Lizzie Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
Leela.
Atola
Visuals.
Atola
Visuals. Yeah. And they're great, but I was like, why is it there's like I can count them on one hand?
Literally, I was asking myself the same thing. I was like, dude, why? Yeah, seriously, it's like 5 that I follow, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's sad. Yeah. It makes me sad.
Me too. And I actually found this one female filmmaker who just happened to be using the hashtag female filmmaker on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Marissa Rojas. That's me. That's the Latina in me trying to pronounce her last name. That's how I think it's spelled. I actually do not know if she's Latina, but that's how we're interpreting it. So Marissa, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. Yeah. Please come to my podcast. But, you know, I found her content and she doesn't have, you know, over 1,000 followers, but the quality was there. Mm-hmm. And the content that she was putting out was so valuable. I was like, more women need to find this channel. So it's like, right. You know, how do we boost other women up? How do we form a network that's visible to, you know, to people outside of the individuals like myself who are actively seeking it out?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Yeah. That's well said.
Thanks. I'm trying. So
no, you're doing a great job. I'm like sitting here and I'm like trying to not like, because every time I'm on a podcast now I feel like I feel like I never leave the like interviewer role now, because I'm always like interviewing other people. So I'm like, okay, wait, this is not my podcast. So like, let me just like, let me take a little back seat here, you know?
Yeah. Let me drive, please.
Yeah.
So this podcast is dedicated to female filmmakers. So let's talk about your filmmaking journey. How far along are you on your journey? A few years now, right?
Yeah, I was actually talking to someone about this today. I would say that like, I feel like I have like different journeys. Like I have like my professional journey as like a professional, you know, videographer, and I do it for money. That's only been a thing for like 2.5 years. And then prior to that, I was just kind of starting out. But I would say like I started to take video in general seriously, and I started to make it like a really big passion and hobby of mine in like late 2015 or 2016. I was very bad at it. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally terrible. I was using like sometimes I would use my sister's iPhone 6 because it had like it had like because I had like an iPhone. I don't even know what iPhone I had. I think it was the 5 or like a 4, like something really crappy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, iPhone 6, like this has a great camera. So I remember I had used her camera to shoot some like travel stuff while we were in Puerto Rico. And then I went abroad in when did I go abroad? 2015, I think. No, I lied. 2016, I went abroad, like the beginning of 2016, and I brought those little like Coolpix cameras.
Yeah,
like those mad old ones from like the early 2000s. Like I literally brought one of those, and I was like, I was absolutely amped to make like videos while I was abroad with it. And it was just so funny because it was like the hardest thing to work with. It's like a literal, like you can't do much with it. And I was also editing an iMovie too, because I didn't have editing software, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw this in iMovie and like make a cool little thing. And that was like 2016, but I was like truly like infatuated with it. Like I was like, dude, I love putting together. I just loved putting visuals together, like especially to music. Like it just felt so cool to me, and I think I can trace it back even farther than that, because when I was in high school, I would typically do like any school project that I had. Whenever they gave us like free range to do whatever you wanted with the school project, I would always do a video.
Of course.
And
yeah.
I used to make little like, oh my God, when I was like 14, I used to make these really cringy like YouTube vlogs. Like they were.
I need to see these.
Oh my God, I need to see them. But the problem is, like, I put them on YouTube on this random ass YouTube channel, and I don't know how to get back into the account.
Locked out.
I got locked out of the account, and I don't know how to. I literally don't. I can't figure out a way to contact Google to like let me into my account. But all the videos are like privated. That's why I can't search them. So they're gone forever. Well, I don't know. I might be able to get them back somehow, but. For right now, they're gone forever. But ever since I was like 14, I've always been using a camera in some capacity. But I did not make it like an actual like, oh, I want to do this as a career and I want to actually pursue like cinematic filmmaking. Like I didn't actually go that route and that deep into it until I was like a senior in college. So that was like, oh man, that was like 4 years ago. 4, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. It made me cry to say that because I was like, oh my God, I've been out of college for 4 years. That's disgusting.
Oh, it's too funny. It's going to make you cry even more when I tell you that I just finished college last year.
Oh my goodness. How old are you? Like 22?
24.
Oh, you're 24?
Oh, yeah, I finished my master's last year.
Oh, okay. Dang, okay. Okay, so you're not that much younger then. You just turned 24? When did you turn 24?
December.
You turned 24 in December. Okay. I turned 27 in September, like this September.
So does my boyfriend. That's so funny.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I would say that's like a brief synopsis of like my filmmaking journey and kind of like how, I don't know. Yeah, kind of how long I've been doing it and like it's always been there. It just didn't really like come out in full force till like 4 years ago, I think.
So what sparked that? Like what was the inspiration when you switched from just kind of doing this as a hobbyist or like kind of documenting your own journey to being like, this is what I want to do for a living?
Yeah, so the funny thing about that is that, so the reason why I like was like, oh my God, I really want to do this as a career was because in 2015, I was like super stoked about Justin Bieber's album that he released. And I know mad people find him super problematic and they don't like him and they hate him, whatever. I'm going to fully admit that I am a Justin Bieber fangirl. I love him. I love his music, like whatever. I love his journey. So in 2015, I obviously was amped about his new album drop and I watched one of his music videos for the song I'll Show You, I think it was. And it was a video of him in Iceland, and the way it was taken was just so breathtakingly beautiful. Like I was like, something about that video just hit me different. I was like, dang, that is just beautiful cinematic shots. And then that led me to one of his other video pieces, which was for his song Company. And that video piece was just so interestingly edited, like with the fast cuts and the match cuts that like transitioned, and I had never seen anything like that before in video. And so that's what kind of like, I was like, how did they do that? Who shot this video? Like I fell down a rabbit hole and I figured out that the person who had been shooting his videos at that time was a guy called Rory Kramer. I don't know if you follow him at all.
I don't, but I will.
He's another white guy, another white guy in the film scene. But his work for Justin Bieber was what caught my eye and is what kind of took me down a rabbit hole of, I want to figure out like how people do this and I want to recreate something like this. So then after I watched those videos and I followed Rory Kramer, and then I was like, I got into another rabbit hole of like finding other filmmakers from finding Rory Kramer, and I was like, oh, this film stuff seems super interesting. And then like from then on I was like hooked. I was like I want to learn how to do these transitions and I want to learn how to edit like that, and I want to learn how to just, I don't know, I was just nerding out like real hard. I don't know.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
You know? Like just one thing to like light that fire within you.
Oh yeah.
And then you just run with it. So at that point you were kind of still like studying guys like and filmmakers like Rory Kramer. when did you actually start picking up your camera and like experimenting with that style, or like taking it into the edit and trying to actually replicate the things that you were seeing?
So when I went abroad, so those videos, I saw them in fall of 2015 is when I saw the videos. And I was going abroad the beginning of 2016. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bring that little Coolpix camera with me. I brought that camera with me abroad because it was the only thing that I had. I didn't have no type of money for no type of nice camera. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to bring this like little Coolpix thing. I brought it abroad, and I remember trying, like, I just was like, I was just messing around, like trying techniques. I was speed ramping for like the first time ever in iMovie. Yeah. Literally iMovie though, which is like the worst program to speed ramp in because you can't, it's literally like you cut and you change the speed and then you cut again and it just goes back to normal. Like you can't like really ease it at all. So that was the first time that I was like actually trying to practice those techniques, and it looked really bad. It looked really terrible. I actually have the videos like on my Vimeo account still. They're like still at the very, very bottom of my Vimeo account. Like you will find those videos, and it's like really funny to look at now because I'm like, oh damn, look at baby Jasmine like trying to do cool stuff. Like, but yeah, that's kind of, that was, I guess, first camera. It wasn't like my camera, so it wasn't my own first camera.
Right.
My first camera that I owned was a GoPro, and I like used the GoPro for like all these travel videos. I was like, I'm gonna make travel videos with the GoPro. So I ran around with the GoPro and I did all types of weird stuff with it, and I tried to make the GoPro look as cinematic as possible because I was like, I wanted to do like actual cinema style stuff, but I was using a GoPro, which is like the most non-cinematic looking camera that you can buy. Unless you learn how to make it look cinematic, which I did. But yeah, that was my first camera that I owned, was the GoPro Hero 4, and I still have it. To this day.
I love that. Yeah, I started on a Canon either T3i or T5i Rebel camera.
Yeah, I feel like everyone starts with like a Canon Rebel or T series.
Yeah, that was back in high school, and thinking back on it now, like I thought I knew what I was doing. I had no idea how to use that camera. It was on auto all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, composition. I just thought it was enough that I was pressing record. Right. And now I had this footage. I
didn't understand anything, dude. Like shutter speed, like
girl, I just learned shutter speed last year. I still have to like the 1 to 180 degree shutter rule. I have to guide myself through this.
It's a weird one to like understand. Like I didn't get it at all, and then I figured out the 180 degree shutter rule, and then I was like, okay, cool. But I still didn't understand. Like I knew that rule, but I didn't understand like what shutter speed was doing.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to like figure out like, oh, this is what shutter speed is doing to my image, and now I can play around with my shutter speed if I want to like break that 180 degree rule and like get a different look. But yeah, that took me a while to understand. I feel like there was a lot of camera settings where I was like, dude, I don't know what this means, and I would remember I would get frustrated too. I was like, why doesn't my video look like this cinematic masterpiece that I saw online? And it's because I didn't know how to use my camera, like, at all.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that sometimes creatives in general kind of get sucked into this trap of, if I buy the gear, the skill will somehow just, like, be bestowed upon me. Because I was working at my university, back when I was in college, I was working for the Center of the Arts. And they were like, oh, like, because I studied video production as an undergrad. So I knew the basics of Premiere Pro. I was taking like I learned like 3-point lighting and things like that. Right. But in college, even at that point, I wasn't making, like you were saying, like the cinematic content that I wanted, that I saw on YouTube and that I saw people do. I didn't know how to make that correlation of like, okay, I'm here and I'm, doing standard interview shots, but like they're doing, transitions and making all these like crazy effects, and I didn't know how to get there. But I noticed the common thread was, oh, these people have better gear than I have. So when I was working for Center for the Arts, they were like, you can make videos. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do that. But in order to do that, I need the best camera out there. So they actually, it belonged to the department. It wasn't my own camera, but I got to use it. I made them by a Canon 1DX Mark II.
Oh, those are so fire.
Yeah. And I thought I did my research, and I realized, like, once I got the camera and, like, the standard, like, kit lens it came with, it's probably like a 12 to 35 millimeter, like, I don't know what it was, something like that. And I realized, like, I don't even know how to, like, turn this camera on. Like, I eventually got the camera on, and then just thought, like, okay, now that I have the camera, I can recreate everything that they're doing. And that was just not the case at all. I was so lost. Every shot I had was out of focus. And I guess at the time I didn't know where to go to find the information to learn how to use the camera. Like, I wasn't looking up the right things on YouTube, and I wasn't understanding it. I just figured, like, oh, I have the camera. Now I'll kind of, like, it'll all just come to me. So I remember being in charge of filming this gala at the Center for the Arts. And I used the camera, I got it powered on, I was just getting some shots. Composition was good, everything was fine. I did not know how to adjust aperture, shutter speed, ISO, none of it. So it was just like all auto. It was like a terrible green hue. It was so bad.
Man.
And I had no idea, like, because now if I shot something like that, I'd be able to take it into the edit and adjust. But back then I had no idea, and I was like, wow, like, I just made this department buy this expensive ass camera for me, and I have no clue what I'm doing. And if I send them this product, they're going to see that. So then I got into the terrible habit of hopping on motionarray.com and picking a template, a Premiere Pro template. And I just plugged in all the footage, and there were so many effects, and it ended up looking good, the end product, because it, like, wasn't any of my own editing. And that's
so crazy.
There were black and white effects and this and that. But, like, I remember feeling so discouraged, because I was like, how am I ever going to be a filmmaker when, like, I went to school for video production and I don't even know how to work this camera?
Dude, like, amen to that. Like, there is just, like, I feel like this is just a common thread with people. Like, I know people who have gone to school for video stuff, and they don't know nearly enough to, like, go shoot something on any type of camera without any assistance. Like, and they don't understand, like, the, like, I don't know. It just it's so weird to me. Like, but it it's something that I have seen before, where, like, people tell me that they come out of school, and, like, I have a friend who Charlotte. Yeah. So she's my close friend here who she was on the podcast. You know her. So she went to a school, and she was in, like, a film program, but she never actually learned how to use a camera either. Like, she was more heavy on the editing, so she learned how to edit a lot, but she went through all 4 years of school in a, like, film program, and she never really learned how to use a camera. And I remember her coming to me and being like, hey, can you teach me how to use this Sony camera? It's like a Sony A6300. And it's like, I was like, dang, that's so crazy that you can go to school for 4 years and, like, they just don't be doing anything for you. I'm like,
honestly,
it's just wild to me, but it is so true. Like, going back to, like, what you were saying before about, like, the whole gear thing, like, that's exactly how I felt too when I first started shooting. Like, I remember I worked for a TV station in my junior year of college, and during the during my time at the TV station, they let me use a Panasonic GH4.
All right.
And I was like, Panasonic GH4 looks so good. Like, I saw videos shot with the Panasonic GH4, and it was tight. It looked amazing. And then I took the camera and I went out and I tried to shoot something, and I was like, this looks like trash. Like, why? Like, I literally thought that if I just had the camera in my hand, I would magically be able to, like, create the most cinematic image ever. And that's just so far from the truth. It's, like, actually insane.
Yeah. Even, like, I don't have the GH4, but I last year purchased the GH5, and that was, like, I consider my first like real camera, because it shoots in 4K, 60 frames per second. You know, it's a cinema camera,
Right.
lower level.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I first acquired that, number one, I could afford it, so I was thrilled about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, now that I have the camera, I need the lights, and now that I have the lights, I need the microphones, and now that I have this, like, I just went down this rabbit hole, and I ended up getting so much gear and not knowing how to use any of it. So speaking of, like, you know, like Charlotte went to school for film too,
Mm-hmm.
that's a really big investment. I spent, you know, so much money and so did she, to go to school to learn the skills that would make me leave college a filmmaker. And it failed us in that way.
Yeah.
And you know, I think some of it is on the individual. Like, I should have been, you know, out practicing more, or like seeking out peers we would work on like independent projects and things like that. But a lot of it is also on the faculty to provide you with the tools that you need and to point you in the right direction, because that's the thing. Like, a lot of my professors the last time they were in the industry was decades ago.
Right.
And if you gave them a Panasonic GH5, they wouldn't even know how to turn it on.
Literally, I had a guy that I used to work with, and he was a much older guy. He was like in his 60s, and I would help him shoot gigs because he didn't know how to use he was a director of like an actual film production company.
Yeah.
And I had to sit with him because he didn't know how to use a Sony. He had a Sony A7R II, and he literally had no clue like how to use it. And like, that just goes to show, like, I mean, technology is getting crazy, you know, camera technology is getting insane. And it's like, you know, it is hard. I can only imagine it's hard for like the older generation to keep up with like all the new tech. But I mean, that's so true about the whole filmmaking and school, and how all these professors are like, they seem to be kind of out of touch with like how to really create stuff in the modern day, like, digital world now. Like, I feel like it's a lot different than how people used to create things, and the technology is like way different too. So I'm so sorry, y'all. You know, wasted a little bit of your money doing that, but yeah, I feel like I wasted my money too in college. So
yeah, honestly, I mean, luckily my degree, I had a concentration in media production and video production, but my overarching degree was in communication. So at least I was able to leave with that piece of paper that was like a lot broader. For me to
That's what I graduated with
job.
too, like a communication degree. So I totally get you.
Yeah. But I think like it also, so the main topic I wanted to talk about with you today is the idea of vulnerability as a creative. And I think maybe the perfect way to segue into that is, you know, I left college, and my professors and the classes I was taking didn't prepare me for the goals that I had in mind.
Right.
I feel like I was entering this sphere, and I was just super vulnerable to being number one, discouraged, to being critiqued, to being, you know, casted out, because I didn't understand the basics. And I think a really good foundation is so important when you're aspiring to do anything, but in a creative field in general, because those become like the building blocks that you use to accelerate your career. And, you know, I actually ended up paying for a course called Full-Time Filmmaker. Have you heard of it?
You know what's actually hysterical?
What?
So, first of all, yes, I've heard of it. But also, slight, very mini segue. One of my friends that follows me on IG, he's from Boston, Mass. He DM'd me, and he was like, I'm seeing your face everywhere. Or I'm seeing you everywhere. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're seeing me everywhere. And he was like, you're going to be on a podcast? And I was like,
is this Jason?
Yeah, it's Jason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, he DM'd me. He was like, you're going to be on a podcast like for female filmmakers. And I'm like, how did you know that? I was like, I was like, I didn't promote it yet. And I didn't say anything. Like, I didn't know if you had. So I was like, oh, do you know Kel? Like, and he was like, no, I saw, I don't know. He just segued. He was like, yeah, I saw it in the Full-Time Filmmaker group. So
right.
Fun. That was just a weird, funny little tidbit that I was like, oh wait, that's actually so funny that like, that's crazy how people can connect through other things. But yes, Full-Time Filmmaker. I love their videos. I will just say that.
Yeah. So it's led by Parker Walbeck. he's super freaking talented, and he leads a team of other really talented filmmakers, and he started this program that would take you from being pretty much an amateur to potentially opening not necessarily owning your own production company, although a lot of us go that route, but becoming a filmmaker full time, and actually having like a profitable business. So yeah, I guess that would naturally lead you to open your own production company. But I was toying with the idea of taking the course because I was like, it's like it's a cool $700. It's a little bit of an investment, but I think the prospect of it kind of scared me. Like, if I actually commit to doing this, I might actually be good at this thing that I've told myself for so many years that I'm not qualified to do.
Right.
And so I ended up buying the course, and no joke, it sat in my browser for months.
Really?
I dropped $700 on this thing, and I couldn't open the class.
So you were just like afraid, it was just a fear of success?
I think it was both. It was fear of, what if this doesn't work out? What if I just like blew all my money and and I'll find out I'm really not qualified to do this?
Right.
Or two, this could be the best thing I've ever done, and all the stability I have with this full-time gig that I've already procured is potentially might go away. So I committed this year to scheduling out my lessons and taking it. And as I was going through the course, they have a Facebook group as well, which is like another major highlight of joining the course, because you join this community of full-time filmmakers. And the first thing I did when I opened up the Facebook group was search like female filmmakers or women in film in that group. And I found a handful of ladies, and I ended up, DMing all of them, being like, "Hi, I'm Kel. Please accept me. Hi.
Yeah.
Be my friend." And, most of them were very, nice and welcoming, and we, are friends now, I guess.
Right.
But it was like there was the women in that group, there were seemingly so few. And then I got the idea for this podcast because I was like, what really inspires me is seeing someone I can relate to accomplish the goals that I have for myself. Right. And that's either, that's women of color, that's Latinos, Latinas, anybody, in that sphere, women. So I was like, where can I find this constant source of inspiration? Right. And I looked up, female filmmaker podcasts, and I found a few here and there about like women in film and actresses in film and stuff like that, but it wasn't like the cinematic types of films I want to make, because I don't want to be on a film set like a movie set or a film crew. Right. That wasn't the type of filmmaking I was referring to necessarily. More so like the evolved definition of a filmmaker now, like to include like just cinematic content for brands, businesses, stuff like that. And so I realized that I couldn't find what I was looking for, so I decided to just kind of take this leap and go for it myself. So I posted in the full-time filmmaker group with your picture. That's why I messaged you. I was like, "Hey, can I use your picture for?"
Oh, okay, got you. Because I was like, yeah, because he said he saw my picture, and I was like, oh. I literally was like, well, I don't know where you saw my picture. So it was just really funny. Like, yeah, so you posted in the group. Sorry.
No, yeah, perfect. I posted in the group, and over 200 women commented on it. Because I was like calling all female filmmakers, like, I'm starting this podcast. I'd really love to feature you as a guest. Here's kind of my mission. Here's my reason why. And like 200 women were so supportive.
What?
And I DM'd every single one of them.
Oh
and
my
now
God.
I have a list that will pretty much cover me for the rest of the year if I want to do a podcast every week to have on the show.
That's nutty.
But the thing is, like, if I wasn't in this group, where would I have found these women?
Literally, like, you would have to dig a lot harder. Like, definitely. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's definitely the benefit of like having those online communities too, is like really being able to kind of, be able to find someone in a more concentrated area where you might be able to, more likely find them. But yeah, I mean, I'm part of like a Facebook group that it's like women who drone, because that's also something that's also something that's like not really like, I feel like women in drones are just not as, like, I don't know. I feel like people don't take me seriously when I have a drone. They're like, oh, you can fly a drone? And I'm like, yeah, bitch, I can fly a drone. Like, you know, and I know so many talented female drone pilots, you know, and it's cool that, like, they have their own Facebook group, and, like, it's cool to see that in there. And it really does hit home more when you see people that look like you doing what you're doing. Like, and that's why I try my very hardest to be, like, visible on social media, and to really, really, like, make sure that, like, I'm just there to, like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I struggle with, this is me, this is my identity, what I vibe with. And, like, I just feel like that's so important. And sometimes I get all up in my head because I'm like, I get so self-conscious that people are like, what is Jasmine doing? Like, does she think she's an influencer? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just stupid shit like that, like, sometimes people will say to me as, like, a joke. And I know it's a joke, but sometimes I'm like, oh, don't hurt my feelings like that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be, like, extra, and, like, but at the end of the day, it's like, no, I really do want to put myself in front of the lens as well, so that these other women, like Latina women especially, like Black women, like, we need to get, it's not just, you know, women in general, like POC women, like, yeah. I see that even less, you know? And so I really want to make sure that I am visible for people, and that, you know, they can see somebody doing, and they see the face behind it. You know, I know so many creators too, like, they struggle with that. Like, they don't want to be in front of the camera, and they don't want to show their face and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. I want people to know that we out here doing it, and we out here doing it. Like, look at you. Like, you have like, that's insane to me that, like, you got that many, like, you're literally just found all your guests for the rest of the year. Like, that's insane. I need to do something like that, because I'm totally not even that proactive about it. Like,
right. Yeah. I think that, you know, I was so overjoyed with the overwhelming response from all these women. But Jasmine, I mean, talk about doing it. You are doing it, girl. You have a podcast. I literally, like, I'm so inspired by you. I was so excited when you DM'd me. Because, first of all, I think you're so much cooler than I am. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's messaging me.
No.
But I told my boyfriend Joshua, I was like, this is someone who is really putting themselves out there. And, like, somebody that I can look to be inspired by. And to emulate in certain ways. And, like, without that, like, visibility, and it only takes one or two, really,
right,
to kickstart your you know, your inspiration and your creativity. And you've been that person for me. So, you know, thank you for displaying that authenticity on social media and online, because that is what is inspiring other people. And I see your posts, like, I'm not the only one who's inspired by you, girl. Like, there are tons of people on every single post, you know, commenting and cheering you on. So I think that's really important.
Thank you. No, that means a lot to me. And it's so weird to even, like, hear that, and to be like, oh, like, cause again, like, I get in my head too, and I'm like, oh, I'm not anyone special. Like, you know, I'm me, and I want people to know that, like, I am whatever things I am, and I'm still trying to do the things that I'm trying to do, but I'm also still struggling. Like, sometimes, like, I still struggle mentally a lot with, like, all of this stuff, and I struggle too with, like, not having a community of like, I have a good creative community here, but I do want to expand, like, my community of, like, women creatives, you know, and POC and LGBTQ. Like, these are all things that really matter. And, like, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, it literally takes one person to be like, hey, like, I'm a POC filmmaker, I'm a woman, I'm, you know, LGBTQ, I'm this, I'm that. And then you're like, oh shit, like, I identify that way too. Like, and you know, you can really start to see yourself in people, and that's what I want to be able to do. And I also just don't want to get on social media and, like, BS people, you know, like, I work really hard to be really good at my craft, and I'm glad that people can see that, and I'm glad that people are inspired by my work. But I also want to be transparent, with my own journey and the things that like I struggle with. And, I have the same, I've been doing this like 4 or 5 years, and I still have the same, I still fall into those like self-doubt, like I'm not good enough at this, like I'm not going to progress as much, or like I'm never going to be as good as like some white dude on YouTube, you know what I mean? Like I stay getting in my head with like stupid things like that. And I'm like, honestly, like if I did get on YouTube seriously, like I could fucking I could do the damn thing. And I know that I could. There just needs to be those faces out there, because it really, really matters. And people are like, like why does representation matters a shit ton, like so much more than some people realize, So
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. That's super sweet. Like seriously, like, and like I said, I'm not really that cool. Like you can ask my girlfriend. She's like, nah, she's a dork. Like I'm really not that cool. I just like to do so many things. So I appreciate that a lot, and it means a lot to me that like you're literally like you're in New Jersey right now, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just crazy. Like you're in New Jersey. Like I've never met you in person before, and like somehow we connected online, and we're having like a face-to-face conversation right now, like so casually and nonchalantly. Like I don't feel like you're a stranger to me, like I feel very comfortable like chatting with you. And I think that is so special, and that's so cool. Like literally my girlfriend was like, oh, like when is she coming over? And I'm like, she doesn't live here. I'm like, she lives in New Jersey. And she was like, oh, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I've never met her in person before. I don't know, So I don't know. It's super dope. I'm super excited to like, this is a very special exchange for me, I feel like, because it's just goes to show that you really can like connect and just like push other people that are like don't even live near you, and that's freaking cool to me. And like you're out here doing a podcast. Like I'm so excited to see where your podcast goes, like for real.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that this is such a testament to what like the power of social media and putting yourself out there. Like I think that your choice to be vulnerable on social media and be your most authentic self is that it's a choice. Mm-hmm. You can sometimes, when I see certain posts, I'm like, wow, that person's life like can't be this picture perfect thing that they're posting. You only see the highlights. You only see the best, someone's bests, someone's
right.
firsts.
Mm-hmm.
But when I start, have seen your posts, I was like, okay, so she's a dope creative. She's doing all this stuff, and she still deals with all the stuff that I personally go through too, and that other people are struggling with. Like showcasing your triumphs and your struggles is a really powerful choice, but it does leave you to be a little bit more vulnerable. And I think that you said you struggle with it, like getting in your head about the things that you post. How do you kind of combat that? Does getting positive feedback from other people help you get through that?
Yeah, I think that honestly, like sometimes when I post stuff, like I get scared to post it because I'm like not because I feel like, not because I'm afraid to share it. I'm just afraid that like people will like I don't know. I think I have that whole thing in my head where I'm like, people are gonna start to label me as like, very why are you writing long ass captions, Jasmine? Like you're a fucking influencer now, like I'm afraid of being judged by the people who it's not for,
Yeah.
But I think that that's a really big mental switch that like we have to have, is that not everyone's gonna like your stuff. Like not everyone, I'm sure as hell, like there's people that scroll right by my shit and they're like, nah, don't really feel like reading that, or I don't care, or like I've had people unfollow me as well, and like I think you kind of have to make that mental switch that like you're not gonna make content that's for everyone. Like you're only gonna be able to make content for the people who it's for, and the people who it's not for, you can't really think about them. You kind of have to think about like, well, who do I feel like this post is really gonna speak to, and is it worth speaking to them? Like, you know, and anytime I have done it, like, even though I do sometimes get in my head about it, I always get a handful, if not like even just one person. I always get at least one person that messaged me and they're like, hey, I read your post and like, damn, dude, I feel the same way, like blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, and I get people who genuinely come into my messages now and they'll ask like very vulnerable questions like, how are you doing what you're doing? And how do you deal with XYZ things? And I think that, you know, I think that being vulnerable leaves the door open for like conversations that, you know, usually don't have a space online, because people don't want to talk about how they're messing up, and some people don't want to ask questions even because they're like, I don't want to look stupid. Like, I don't want to ask a question in a Facebook group and look dumb. Like, some people just want to have that like one-to-one conversation. And I think, I don't know, I have to remind myself that it's what I post will at least resonate with one person. I can at least count on that it'll resonate with one person, and that should be enough, you know? And to that person, you know, it could mean a lot. And, you know, I think that there's also, you never know who's watching also. Like, some people might not even like or comment or message you at all, but they're still reading and watching. And I've had people message me like out of the blue and be like, I've been watching your journey for like 2 years. And I'm like, you have? Because, you know, you never comment, you never message me, but it's so cool that they'll come out of the blue like 2 years, you know, later, and they're like, yeah, I just wanted to let you know that like I've been watching you I've been watching your stuff for 2 years, and it's really cool, and I really resonate with it, and like, thank you for posting whatever you're posting. And I'm like, see, like, there's always someone who's gonna relate. So you can't think about the people that the content's not for. And I think that's a really hard lesson that I've learned, because I always want to be liked by everybody, and I always want to feel like everybody likes my stuff, you know. And like, that's that validation that we need. And like, I'm not immune to that. Like, I need validation too in some form. And so, but I gotta just get in my head and be like, you know, just stop that. Like, just post it. There's going to be one person that resonates, and lo and behold, here we are. This is what happens. This is what happens when you're authentic and you're vulnerable and you just go for it, and you connect with people. Like, I've really, really made a point to try to really have like actual genuine like human connection, like on platforms like Instagram, you know. And it's crazy. I have so many people that I talk to on Instagram that I've literally never met in real life. Like, and we talk to each other like we're best friends. It's so weird, you know, but it's cool. It's so cool. And
to be social on social media, what a concept, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, it's cool. It's really, really awesome. And I'm so happy that, like, you know, that you think that it's been helpful to you and that you resonate. Like, that makes me really happy. And like, that's who the content's for. That's what me sharing my feelings is for, you know. Some people don't want to hear it, and some people are like, hey, thank you for sharing your feelings with the world, because I feel that too, you know. And I think that's, I don't know. I don't like people thinking that my life's all like shiny and spick and span, because it's not. Like, it's hard. It's really, really hard. Like, I hella struggle all the time, and people are always like, Jasmine, you look like you're killing it, or you look so cool, like you're always skateboarding and you're singing and you're doing this and you're doing that. And I'm like, but you had no idea that I just had a mental breakdown like 5 hours ago, you know. Like, and it's real, you know. And I don't want to, I don't know, I just don't want to be that person that just like keeps the trend of like playing pretend. Like, look at this cool picture of me, like, look at this cool video that I made. Like, yeah, I want to share that with you guys too. I want to share stuff like that too, but I don't want people looking at my content and feeling like shit about themselves. Like, that's what I don't want to happen, you know? And so I don't know. That's why I try to mix in that like vulnerability. And like, some people are like, well, don't be too vulnerable, and like, don't give away everything that you're struggling with. And I'm like, well,
But also, why not at the same time?
Yeah, I'm like, why not? Like, you know, like, I think some people have concerns about, like, well, if clients come to my page and I'm talking about how I'm, like, struggling and blah, 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 like, that could be problematic. And it's like, I understand. Like, I'm sure, you know, there's been, I don't know. I get it. But at the end of the day, like, a client is still a human being. Like, they have human emotions, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm sure I had someone today who hired me for a job, and they were like, I really liked your posts, and I felt like I got authentic vibes from your page. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, you know? Like, so anyway, sorry, I'm talking a lot. So
no, this is perfect. This is why we have you on.
I'm literally on the podcast, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to be quiet. Like, why? That's the point of the podcast. But
exactly. No, and that's the thing. Art can't just be about the work that you produce. It also has to be about the artist. And I think that, like, if your page, you know, the most authentic representation of you is your work, is the fact that you skate, is you know, your identity, is the life that you're building for yourself over in Texas. It's the struggles that you go through, it's the things that you've overcome. It's all of these things, and I think that ideally your social media profile should kind of reflect all of that. If someone, like, my goal is that if someone were to hop onto my Instagram page, they could, you know, do a scan and get an idea of, like, my values and the things that are important to me and the type of person that I am. Right. Because there are so many accounts that I see of influencers that it's only, like, bright and sunny posts, or it's only sponsored posts, and I feel like there's no real communication. And it's like I feel like I don't know you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about, like, 90% of, like, the bigger, like, influencers who you see. They have a really big following, and they have a very nicely curated feed, and I don't feel like I get any personality from any of those pages, you know? And I don't really, it's like, you know, a little bit about their life, but you, like, actually know nothing. Like, it's very strange. So I totally get that. And, like, I totally, I don't know. I think a reason why I'm getting on here and, like, I feel so comfortable talking with you is because, like, you also radiate the same thing from your page and your posts and your videos. It's like you come off as very, like, authentic, and you're very generous in the way that you shine light on other people, and you also talk about your own things. And I don't know, I feel like that's why I can get on here and be like, I feel like I'm friends with Kel. Like, I've never met her in person, but, like, I don't feel like you're a fake person, you know, with, like,
right.
I already feel like you're real to me. So I think that that's what's so cool about being, you know, that authentic person, you know, online is, like, super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I've used, like, on my personal page, and I think I've seen this on your page too, I've used vulnerability on social media as a way to cope with things that have been going on, you know, in the wake of the George Floyd murder some time ago. I didn't feel comfortable, you know, expressing myself on social media without talking about this huge event and issue that was happening, and, like, the social justice struggles that we're all facing. And I was passionate about something, but I literally found myself thinking, like, I can't post that because, you know, so-and-so is going to unfollow me, or I don't want to start any trouble or anything like that. Yeah. But, you know, I found that I couldn't keep quiet. So I actually ended up posting, because at the time I just started my corporate job, and my company wasn't handling, like, their response in the wake of those events wasn't sufficient in my eyes. So I ended up making a YouTube video that can be found on my channel called Dear Corporate America, Black Lives Matter. And it was kind of just this, like, this monologue of me talking to the camera and just kind of expressing myself. But I was like, okay, how can I get my message out to the most people, express myself in the best way that I know how, which is through video and through my creativity, and also feel like I've addressed the things I need to address in order to be able to post other content and kind of move on from these things. And I feel like I saw that on your page with the snowstorm and the crisis that just hit Texas. You know, you turned that situation into art that was informative, that was personal, and that touched a lot of people.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, I literally got the inspiration to, like, do that video, like, the day I got water back, I think it was like finally we were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and I was like, I haven't edited anything for like 2 weeks because the week before that I had COVID, so that was like not a great time for me. So yeah, that Texas winter storm was insane, and I really felt compelled to like really make something out of it. And it was really cool because so many people were like, oh my god, this is such a great representation of like the week, and like I had so many people share it, and it was really cool. It's really cool when you can make something and like people it just hits them, and I'm like, that's like, that is the beauty and the power of like art and like video and photo and like any other medium of like expressing yourself, is like you can just make something and people are like, damn, like this actually made me feel something. And like I think that's always the goal. It's really I feel like that's become a little lost lately, like within myself, but also within like the filmmaking community as a whole. I feel like most people don't want to work to make content that makes people like really feel something. They'd rather make something like really pretty or
really
you
cool,
know, really cool with a lot of, you know, flashy stuff. And I love making that stuff too. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm hella into making that stuff as well, and that's probably most of what I make. But that just goes to show that like, yeah, making something that's like very intentional and like personal will always win. You know, it'll always be more memorable, like for sure. So
yeah, it's that also that like storytelling aspect of it too. Like the what is it, the shoe promo that I did got a lot of attention on my Instagram, but not nearly as much attention or feedback as like the personal video that I made on my birthday, just kind of encapsulating what this past year has meant for me, the progress that I've made, the struggles that I've gone through. And that's the thing, no one's gonna look at that shoe video or that product video and say, I know Kel better because I watched this video. But they're gonna watch the birthday video and be like, wow, you know, I feel like I know her.
That was such a great quote right there. That's so true though. Like,
that's a soundbite of the episode now. That
is a soundbite of the episode, because yeah, you're right. Like that same thing happened to me when I like, 'cause sometimes, yeah, like when I post my work or when I post my like, sometimes I'll post my film photography, and like I am excited about my film photography, but it doesn't do well, or it doesn't get a lot of engagement. But like that one time where I posted like a picture, it literally was like a picture of myself, and I wrote like a long caption of like, here are like some truth bits about me, and it was like a couple things that I like really was having a hard time with. And that post got so many comments and likes and shares and like personal messages to me. I even had someone email me. Like they literally they emailed me, and they were like, hey, your post the other week, by the way, like I really liked the post that you made the other week. And I was like, see, like that's just that's what's crazy, is like like we're always going to connect on a human level with shit that's just way more vulnerable and personal and authentic, and it shows clearly, you know. And like, yeah, we're going to love those cool videos, and like it's going to capture my attention for like 10 minutes, but like more often than not, is it going to leave an impact on your life? Really? Are you going to be like, I'm thinking about that, you know, at night, you know, like not really, like not for the most part. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I think just kind of trying to marry the two of like making something that's really cool, but also making something that's like has that really emotional value for people, like where they get to know you as a person. Like I feel like I know Kel, I feel like I know Jasmine better because of this piece of work that they released, or this whatever they released. And like that's such a good way to put it. That was a good way to put it. Yeah, you better hella soundbite that one.
That's too funny. I think that's just the balancing act of social media, though. It's, you know, finding that middle ground of like, okay, I'm still a creative. I still need to make money by the work that I produce. Yeah, exactly. But I also want to work on personal like passion projects and also share personal things about myself, so that the people that I work with will hopefully know and accept me for who I am. Because that's the thing. I think if you think about your business as purely transactional, it's not going to matter how you represent yourself, and to the business, it's not going to matter to them either. But if you're making like real connections, and you're doing work that you care about, or for people that you respect or trust, I think that's really powerful, and that's where you can take your business to the next level. I think I learned that lesson this month. Really, I ended up letting go of a client because I just felt like our values didn't align, and something wasn't right there, and I feel so much better now that I let that go, and everything ended amicably and everything, and I have a gig to go back to should I ever choose to. But it's like, how can I align my professional work as a creative with my most authentic version of myself?
That's so true. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that's kind of where you'll definitely feel the most like happy and fulfilled, and like you will also just be able to do better work because you will actually enjoy the process, and you'll enjoy the people that you're working with, and you'll feel like, oh yeah, like this is something that I'm excited to put together, and like because I believe in it, and like I believe in this person that I'm working with. And that's really hard, man. Like I struggle with that too, because there's some stuff that I'm like, I don't really feel like I align with it that much, but at the same time I'm like, sometimes I can't say no to a big paycheck, like your girl has to do what she got to do, and
gotta eat.
Yeah, but it is really hard to like find that balance. And I think that is super important to kind of have those like really good long lasting client relationships. It's like really about like, are we a good fit? Like it's like matchmaking, dude. Like literally, like working with a client is like straight up just sometimes like matchmaking. Like, are we going to be compatible as, doing this project? Because if not, it's going to be hell for both of us. Like, it's not going to be fun. Like, you're probably not going to get a really nice product because I wasn't that excited to do it, because I don't really mess with you like that, and
yeah,
it's always a little balancing act for sure. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm in a fortunate position, and a little bit of a different position than you are, because this is your, filmmaking and producing content is your main gig, if not one of your main gigs. And for me, I have my, my full-time corporate job. I have the flexibility to pick and choose what clients I work for and what projects I get to work on. So yeah, I haven't decided if I want to do filmmaking full-time, because I love the flexibility to be able to create the projects that I want to create. And if I have to rely on like, oh, I need this to like pay my bills, then I feel like I'm going to stress myself out, number one.
Hell
but also like, I just, to be I'd never want to fall into that transactional category if I can help it of doing creative work.
Yeah, that is like, it's funny because I actually recorded so I have a few podcast episodes of my own that have just like, they're backlogged and like I haven't released them yet. But actually I had recently a conversation with my friend Ian on Instagram. He Say Something Productions, and he does a bunch of like fitness content, but
yeah, his stuff is dope.
Yeah, he's a really, really cool guy. And we actually sat down and we had a conversation about that sentiment of like, what does it really mean when you do it full time? What are the pros? What are the cons? And I know that, in that episode, I won't give the episode away too much, but we did have a little bit of back and forth of like, there are cons to, while it does feel nice to be full time be doing what you love, like there are cons to that. Like I've experienced them. I get burnt out, and you really do end up placing a lot of burden on your, not burden, but you end up placing a lot of pressure on your creativity. And I think for some people that can really start to wear on their love for it. And yeah, it's hard. It's tough. So I definitely, like, if you would have asked me that question like three or 4 years ago, like, oh, like, or not question, but like if you were to bring that up 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, totally, like go freelance, like don't even think about it, like do what you love, follow your dreams, your passion, whatever. But now, like 3 years later, I've been doing it, and it's like, I still truly believe in like following your passion and what you're good at, but I now realize that there are certain consequences to doing what you love as a job, because you're now putting it into a category of like, oh, I could start to not enjoy this. you know, because there is pressure on the thing that I love to now support everything else that I want to do. So it's like, it is tough. So I'm glad you're already thinking about that. I can totally understand the stability. Like you like the fact that you can pick and choose right now. Like, do I want to work with this person? Like, because I don't need to, because I have something else that's stable. And that's something that I kind of miss a little bit. Like, sometimes I feel like I don't have that liberty, you know. I'm like, well, I probably should take this gig because it would put some extra change in my pocket for rent, you know, or something like that. And I'm happy you're thinking about that already. That's the only point. I feel like
No, I definitely, something I've been pondering, because the thing I'm most scared of is like committing to it and then being like, this is nowhere near as, like, this is nowhere what I thought this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then like having to crawl back to my corporate job and be like, please take me back.
They're like, please let me back in. I made a mistake. It's a hard drop. I would say the only people I tell to do it are the people who are just like, I am completely miserable in my 9 to 5 and I hate my life. And then I'm like, all right, well then try the freelance thing, you know, see if you can make that work. But for people who are like kind of on the edge, like, it does, I would say, just like think it through more, and like it could be for you, it might not be for you, you know.
And I think that's just kind of, to wrap it all up, goes back into the vulnerabilities of being a creative. You know, you really are, you're not only putting yourself on the line, like expressing yourself creatively, but like your livelihood is also on the line too.
Like your literal, exactly. Like you're right. Your livelihood, how you're going to survive in the world. And there are days when I get so stressed out about it that I'm like, damn, dude, like I really have to just be doing this like whole back and forth, like produce a project, get paid, produce a project, get paid. You know, it's like sometimes it really does drain me a little bit. And sometimes I'm just like, damn, I just want to make my own art. Like, I don't want to deal with clients. Like, I don't want to, like, there are days when I'm just like, nope, I don't like this at all, you know. But then there are days and times when I do really cool things, and times when like I'll do stuff and I'll get a really decent paycheck, and I'm happy, and I'll make stuff that I'm proud to show, and like those are the times that I live for that, you know. But you know, there's days when I'm just like, nah, fam, I'm not feeling this at all. So it's
I feel that
little roller coaster ride for sure.
Yeah, but the good times and those great projects that you get to work on really make it all worth it.
Yeah,
usually
it does. It does. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I'm like, you know, no, I know I'm going somewhere. Like, I have to just keep pushing, you know, and like there's plenty of times when I'm like, damn, I want to give up. Should I get a 9-to-5 job? Like, I literally have asked my girlfriend that like a million times. I'll like look her straight in the face and be like, should I just get a 9-to-5 job? Like, is this wrong? You know? And she always looks at me and she's like, I don't think you're gonna be happier in a 9-to-5 job. Like, that's just not you, you know? And like, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, it's not me. So I'm gonna have to make this other thing work. And I kind of have to realize that like, work is work, no matter if you do what you love, no matter if you're at a, you know, something that you're not totally in love with, like, work is always work. So at some point or another, you're not going to want to do it. Like, so, you know, you
can't expect that you're going to be completely satisfied and fulfilled by everything you're doing all the time.
It's like totally not realistic at all, as have found out over the last 3 years. I'm like, oh wow, I can't just like live my dreams out and everything's sunshine and rainbows. No, there are still issues. So you know,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. That is true.
All right, Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been so amazing.
No problem. I'm sorry if it was like super long. I feel like now it's like, what is it, 8:30 for you over there now?
That's okay. Yeah, my bed's right there. I'm just gonna hop in that when we're done. No.
I'm like, what?
No, this is so awesome, and I think that, you know, this is the perfect way to kick off this show. You know, you're someone who really inspires me, and I'm so excited for other female filmmakers who will listen to this podcast to find you and for you to, you know, find this community that we've all been searching for.
That would be so sick, honestly. Like, I'm so amped. I'm so honored that I'm the first episode too. Like, that's pretty cool. I can't wait to watch it grow and like watch it take off. And I really, really think that like this will be something like will take off. And you know, you're mad official with it too. Like the email you sent me, I was like, oh, she's ready to take this podcast off. Like this podcast is skyrocketing already. Like it was real good. You have already got a good system set up. So like I have all the faith, and again, super honored that you have chosen me to be your first guest, and like that means a lot to me. And I'm just super happy that you pitched the idea to me, and like it was just, yeah, I don't know. It's just so nice to see. It's so nice to see, and I'm stoked. So I will stop talking now because I feel like I ramble a lot.
No, you're good. This is exactly what we wanted you on the podcast.
I know, that's true. That's true.
No, thank you for the support. It really means a lot, and I'm really excited to see where this goes too. But where can people find you?
So people can find me on IG. Probably I'm mostly on IG. It is at Jasmine_Q. So JASMINE_Q, like the letter Q. And then I don't really use Facebook that often. I do have a YouTube channel, but if you search my name on YouTube, you will find all my singing videos first. And then you will find my filmmaking channel, which literally has it has a few videos on it, but not that much. But if you literally just search my name on YouTube, like Jasmine Quiñones, you will find me singing primarily. But then you might also find my filmmaking channel, which I hope in the future to actually do something with, because I posted a video in January about film photography, and I haven't done anything since. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, I don't really have anywhere else that I live. I have a TikTok, but I don't use TikTok that often. If you want to follow me on TikTok, it's at JQMadeIt. But yeah, that's
you always have the best names.
Oh, thank you. I just thought of that randomly on the spot. I was like, JQ made it. That sounds kind of cool. So yeah,
with your podcast name too, For Creativity's Sake. Like, how did I not think of that? Like, that's so brilliant.
It took so long, like literally so long for me to come up with that. Like it was like a painful process for me to come up with that name. But yes, thank you. I appreciate it. My light just went out, so I guess I have used it for too long because my key light just went out.
So it's a good time to wrap up.
Yeah, good time to wrap.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on the show again, Jasmine. And yeah, you guys heard where you can find Jasmine on all the socials. And yeah, that's all. So as usual, or for the first time ever, I guess I should say, thanks for listening to She's in Focus. We'll be back with plenty more. I'm so excited for this journey we're all about to embark on together. There's a girl gang right here, and you're a part of it.
Hell
so thank you.
Join the club.
Thank you, and I'll see you all in the next podcast. Bye.
Adios.